Tonight is Democratic Senator Andy Kim of New Jersey, and it's great to have you here, sir. When you hear what Senator Fetterman said there, where do Democrats stand on Elon Musk tonight?
Well, first, we have to take stock of what's actually happened on the Republican side. And what we saw at the last election, the Republican Party became a big tent party. And now they're seeing the challenges of that coalition unraveling, which is what we're seeing right before. And it's not just Trump and Musk. You're seeing that with Trump and Amy Coney Barrett, with the Federalist Society, on so many different fronts. And so, what I see happening today, yes, there's an entertainment value in the same way that, I see this unfolding like I see my 7-year-old and my 9-year-old boys fighting with one another. But, this shows a deeper unraveling that's happening on the Republican side. Then the question of what happens on the Democrat side. I mean, look, the first and foremost is we can take stock of what's happening, look at the feud that is unfolding, but we have to pivot back to the real damage that is being done. We cannot get distracted by this sideshow of two billionaires duking it out when this legislation is going to do real damage. I mean, 16 million Americans can lose their health care. That's where we need to focus on. That's where we need to get on board with. And while Musk certainly is going to draw attention to this and put pressure on the Republican Party, we cannot lose our message of the damage that will be done to the American people with this legislation.
So when someone like Ro Khanna says to Politico, we should ultimately be trying to convince Musk that the Democratic Party has more of the values that he agrees with, do you think that is an effort that is worth Democrats' time? I
mean, look, I don't know Elon Musk. I've never had a chance to meet him. If Ro Khanna and others have a relationship, I don't mind them talking to him. But what I would say is that's not going to be the magic key, the silver bullet on what's going forward. What we need to do is reach out to working class families, to the families that we know are the ones, the communities we know are the ones that we need to earn the vote back from. I think that that's really the key. And, I'm a Democrat that won a congressional seat that Trump won twice. We've seen just exactly what we need to do. And what we need to do is to mobilize the people in this country to recognize that not only is this bill bad for the American people and gutting Medicaid and SNAP benefits for food assistance, but it's also something that is giving the wealthiest Americans a massive tax cut, a tax break. That's the kind of connection we need to make. And that's the kind of effort we're going to have to build for us to be able to win the midterms and ultimately get the White House back. It's not going to be through Elon Musk.
Well, it seems like we'll see how it impacts the bill and whether or not it stops the Senate Republicans from allowing it to pass. But on what's happening also in the Senate, we've been talking about whether or not the Senate's going to sanction Russia over what's happening. Last night, we heard from a Republican senator who seemed to say they were waiting on the White House to make any moves there. But we are seeing Russia tonight, just in the last few hours, launch an aerial assault on Kyiv. We're still waiting to see what the results of that are, what that looks like. The Air Force says that Russian bombers are believed to have launched cruise missiles. You mentioned your sons fighting earlier, likening that to what Musk and Trump are doing. But Trump today in the Oval Office likened Russia and Ukraine to two kids fighting, saying sometimes it's better to let them continue fighting than to pull them off of one another immediately. What do you make of where this stands tonight?
Well, those comments are disgusting, honestly, to try to compare an invasion of a sovereign nation as if it's just two toddlers bickering and arguing. That's absolutely wrong. I mean, the Ukrainian people are fighting for their lives. I was always so hit by, that older Ukrainian men were joining up early on to be able to take up arms to try to prevent the younger men from having to risk their lives, just because they know how much generational harm is being done. I just met with Zelensky's office and some of his top advisors the other day at the Capitol. They're talking about hundreds of thousands of Ukrainian children kidnapped and taken by the Russians. I mean, this is an absolute travesty. And for Trump to constantly just downplay this and just continuing to give in to Putin, I really hope that he changes course on this and really shows what is at stake here. And the problem is that as we saw with everything today on your show, Trump is distracted. Trump is just focused in on these political battles. And we knew that that's what it's going to be about. His whole campaign was about the enemy from within, and losing focus on the threat from Russia, losing focus on the competition with China. And I think that that's ultimately what I hope the American people see is we have a child in the Oval Office that is distracted, getting caught up in personal feuds, and it's allowing these dictators and these authoritarian leaders to run the tables.
Senator Andy Kim, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you.